There are two vastly different skill sets. There are two totally different parts of all of this. And you got to master one before you master number two. There are two main phases of launching a real estate company. The first phase, I guess, back up. I'm going to tell you something you don't want to hear about both phases. I get so many DMs and emails from people who listen to my show or follow me on Twitter, and they say, Nick, I want to hire somebody in the Philippines to handle my acquisitions, or I want to hire a cold caller, or I want to hire, how do you compensate an acquisitions guy? My first question is always, how much real estate are you trying to acquire and how much have you already acquired? The answer for most people, I'd say 90% of the people, is I want to acquire one property somewhere between $500,000 and $5 million. So let me get this straight. And my answer is always the same. I say, let me get this straight. You have not bought a property. You don't know what it's like to buy a property. You don't know what it's like to call and talk to owners. You don't know how it works, but you want to hire somebody to do it because you don't want to do it? I mean, let me tell you a secret. A market study is as simple as calling the competitors. Acquisitions is as simple as picking up the phone. Operations is as simple as keeping a building clean and answering the phone when customers call. No, it's not scalable. No, it's not easy. And yes, it requires a lot of work. And that's why 90% of the people who want to get in real estate never end up getting into real estate because they're not willing to do just a little bit of work. Everybody thinks about scale. They think about growth. They think about 10 years down the road before they've even bought their first building. I tell them all the same thing. Guys, stop. Stop thinking about scale. Stop thinking about hiring somebody and cold call 30 properties tomorrow. Go get on the email list of 25 brokers tomorrow. Do the actual work yourself. No, you don't need to hire somebody. No, you don't need to think about scale. No, you don't need to think about building processes. Look, I mean, the perfect example of this is when me and my partner, Dan, we were building our student storage business. And I make a lot of comparisons between small business and real estate because there's nothing different between what I'm doing at Bolt Storage and what we were doing when we were building Storage Squad. It's all hiring, managing, and building processes. That's it. The best example of this is when I was 23 and I was an idiot, didn't know anything about business or how to grow a company. Me and my business partner spent the whole summer writing down our full business plan, how exactly everybody was going to do everything. I'll say that it was a helpful exercise because we are actually forced to think about it and think about processes and think about systems. But let me tell you the truth is that we hadn't done any of it yet. And as soon as we got to the warehouse and started thinking about how we would actually do it, we realized how crazy we were to think that we could build a business plan and think about scale and think about hiring all these people without actually doing it. Everything changed. So we built this business plan. We wrote this 80-page document, all these systems and procedures and if this, then that. And it was a great exercise. Don't get me wrong. It made us really think about our business and we actually had a lot of really good ideas. But it all changed. Our entire business model changed. There's no difference in real estate. You think you're going to hire somebody from the Philippines to talk to American real estate owners that A, get 20 calls a week, and B, don't care to waste their time with anybody who they don't think is very, very legitimate. Same with brokers. Okay, so, I mean, look, if you're going to hire somebody on Upwork to create a list for you to call or help you with some data entry stuff, that's one thing. If you're already asking me about scaling my company when you don't even have a piece of real estate, I got a bridge to sell you. So I think the real key to this stuff is getting out and actually doing it. Okay, now we shift to phase two. You have a couple pieces of property, you have a proven model, you have a lot of opportunity in front of you. It's where I found myself 2 years ago. We had a couple properties and we started meeting some LPs. Our properties were performing really well. We had some banking relationships. We had some of our own cash. We could build an operations. It was time to scale. I get a lot of questions now. Nick, how do you have all the time? How do you have all the time to scale this company? How do you have all the time to do the work? And yes, I get grilled often by people who say, Nick, how do you have time to hang out with your kids? How do you have time to play golf? How do you have time to have hobbies? How do you have time to make these podcast episodes? when you're running a company that's buying so much storage. And when it comes to scale, running, and I do running in air quotes, running a business or running a real estate shop is not about doing work. It's about finding really good people to do work and setting them up to succeed and spending a little bit of time making super high value decisions. Let me say that again. The investors on my team the investors who invest with my company, their first line of communication is with a member of my team, an employee of mine. Bankers who are loaning us money, their first line of communication is with a member of my team. Brokers who have a deal, some of them call me, but a lot of them also call a member of my team. I am not the main point of contact. So therefore, I don't find myself in the weeds doing a bunch of work. Now, this is the really hard shift from point A to point B. Now, starting a company, this is why starting a real estate company and starting a business in general is much, much different than growing and scaling a business. A good business scales beyond me. A good real estate company, the real estate company that I'm trying to build, that I'm building right now, scales beyond me. I'm not the bottleneck. No key piece of work inside the company is relying on Nick Huber. Now, it takes a unique person and a little bit of skill, a unique skill set to be able to shift from that first phase that I talked about in the beginning of this episode to the phase that we are now, where I can't be the bottleneck and I can't actually have a job inside my company. Because if I'm the main contact of bankers, and we have 10 bankers now that are all either loaning us deals or refining a deal or on our list to do a deal with very soon. We have 10 bankers, we have 275 active investors. We have many, many more who may invest with us. And we have a lot of brokers, a ton. We have a lot of vendors. We have many, many customers. I can't be the point of contact anymore because guess what? I would be able to do nothing. I'd be able to do no long-term planning. I'd be able to do no worrying or planning for changing environments. Look, we're in a really stressful real estate time right now. If I was spending all day talking to LPs and bankers and brokers and closers and attorneys and my customers and all my operations staff, I would have absolutely no time to zoom out and make sure that my company is, the boat that we're in is rowing the right direction. So I can do a really good job leading this company while taking a step back and making sure that we're not missing stuff. There are so many business owners who get in over their heads. They don't know how to hire. They don't know how to delegate. They don't know how to manage. They don't spend any time doing those things. And they don't do a good job keeping track of the stuff that's important. They don't ask the right questions. They don't worry about the right things. They're not thinking about the things that could go wrong in their deals. They're not mitigating risk. In the last 2 weeks, some of the most important things that I've done, I've given the final yes or no on a couple deals. Are we going to offer on them what we're going to pay? I've looked at the underwriting. I've interviewed a key employee, that was today, that we're going to make an offer. And I've spent a lot of time talking with my business partner and team about a couple more new hires that we need and what exactly they're going to be doing, what exact holes are in our business. And as always, I spend a lot of time behind the scenes looking at our data, who moved in, who moved out, at what rates, how are we tracking, what are our financials, what rents are we renting units at right now, and what decisions need made, what changes need made. But the only reason that I'm able to do these things, the only reason that I know enough about this entire business to actually do this stuff is because I've done it. I started out in this business doing the little stuff. I started out answering the phones when customers called. I did it for a year. I cold called 150 self-storage facilities to acquire our first 3 myself. I didn't hire somebody. I did it myself. I learned how to talk to them. I got better at it. So real estate is really a transition, right? Building a real estate team, if you're not willing to do the work, you're never going to get it off the ground. If you're not willing to pick up the phone and get in those uncomfortable situations and actually do the work of going out to properties and looking at them and driving around with brokers and trying to find what you're going to buy and talking to customers and doing all that nitty gritty stuff. If you think you're too good for that, you're never going to make it in this business. And you're never going to be able to scale a business unless you know how to do the main core concepts of business, which is hiring, training, managing, delegating, and building processes. So take that as you wish, but I want to leave you with the knowledge that there are 2 vastly different skill sets. There are 2 totally different parts of all of this. And you got to master one before you master number 2. Hey guys, I have big news. I recently revamped my sales and customer service team at my self-storage company using folks in South Africa. Listen to this English accent.
Hi there, my name is Anton and I'm a sales professional from Gqeberha or Port Elizabeth, which is in the eastern province of South Africa. I've been in sales for about 8 years now with experience in hardware sales with some of the leading brands in the world, such as Canon, Panasonic, and more recently Red Bull.
Okay, now the surprising part. The person you just listened to is available for hire right now, and they're asking $9 an hour. If you want an introduction, if you want to hire this person into your business or at least interview them, send me an email, nick@sweatystartup.com, and I can make an introduction and offer you $1,000 off the recruiting fee. nick@sweatystartup.com.